Good evening, ECM family. My name is 𝐑𝐞𝐥𝐚𝐭𝐢𝐨. Welcome to all our cherished viewers on YouTube and Facebook. We want to celebrate this Vows Day with a special edition. We have 3 gentlemen with us this evening to speak about relationships and love and how they affect us as Christians. So these gentlemen will introduce themselves and tell us the status of their relationships.
Good evening, lovely viewers on YouTube, on Facebook, and my name is Salom Maxwell Azapope. I am a husband and a father of 5 children. I want to wish you a very happy Valentine's Day as you remember that God is love. And I hope that you are going to enjoy this midweek show whilst we try to navigate the journey of relationship and marriage. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Emmanuel Amufa. I'm a finance analyst and I'm currently single. I'll be presenting a perspective on how singles should take some of these issues.
Okay, I'm also Jonathan Otu. I'm also married with 1 kid.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. So, like I said, we are going to be talking about relationships and marriage and how, as Christians, we are supposed to handle all these situations. So we collated a few questions from our youth because they are the ones who are coming up now. And we wanted to ask you these questions, if that's okay. The first question to note is that, do we think marriage is losing its significance in the world now, in our generation? How do we think marriage is faring now? Uncle Max, will you start for us?
All right, thank you very much. I just want to speak a little bit about marriage. You know, marriage is an institution which was established by God. And even in the Bible, it said, what God put together, let no man put asunder. Which means that marriage is very significant to God. And it's something that holds a family together. So it's very, very important in the life of men. And it's also very important to God because it's God who instituted marriage. Now, back to your question on, is it losing its significance? I would say that, of course, looking at what is happening in the world now, the kind of marriage that God defined is not what is being practiced currently in the world. It's supposed to be a man marrying a woman, but the world is trying to change the definition of marriage, where now you see all forms of marriages in our society. Men marrying men, men marrying animals, but as Christians, we need to understand what God taught us as far as marriage is concerned. Now, that aside, where men are marrying men, women are marrying women, if you look at the marriage where a man marries a woman, you realize that the divorce rates have gone very high according to all statistics, and which shows that it is losing its relevance as a catalyst to help put families together. Now, one thing you realize is that a lot of the street children you see on the streets, some of these children who have gone wayward, and most of them are coming from broken marriages or single marriages, which means that marriage plays a very key role in shaping society. It also plays a very key role in shaping the lives of the young ones and the youth. And that is the main reason why, as churches, as institutions, we should try as much as possible to make sure that marriage has not lost its relevance. I'll break over here and then allow my co-members to take it from there.
I will also look at it in this perspective. Marriage is truly losing its significance in the world of today because most people enter into marriage not for helping each other, but for their personal gain. If you look at what is happening now, most people get into marriage just to get a child. Also get into marriage because, oh, the man or the woman has these properties. Let me get into that. At the end of the day, there is a divorce. I benefit from that. So, with your question, marriage is truly losing its significance when it comes to the world of our today.
In my opinion, I think marriage is actually losing its significance. This is because most of the people we are actually looking up to be learning from as youth, you see several instances where marriages that just started a few months ago, the couple has actually divorced. You see, some of these signs are not positives for the youth to pick up from. So everyone feels they are better off living alone and taking their time to eventually find out what they are going to do. This may not be helpful because the real significance of marriage will be defeated. The church can do much more in trying to educate the youth and for them to understand how marriage is important, regardless of all that is happening in our world today.
My next question is, Uncle Max and Uncle Jonathan, before you got married, how were you managing your singleness? You know, in your generation, it's not so far from ours, but then in your generation, things were a bit different in terms of singleness than it is now. And also, Emmanuel, how are you managing your singleness? And so I want to ask that, how did you manage your single life before you got married? And also, how did you also notice that this person is the one that you want to finally settle down with and get married to the person?
Okay, so I will start by saying that I met my wife in church. In fact, my life has always been the church type. And you need to study the person. You need to study the person. But you know, youth of today, we move by our emotions, the way I feel towards the person. But it is about studying the person. Studying the person by the way the person does her things or he does his things. Sometimes you look at the way the person relates. It's all about studying. You study the person. And I would say prayer should also go in, much prayer, because I prayed a lot, and with time, the Spirit of God was revealing so many things to me about her. So prayer and studying, I would say that way.
All right, I'll take it from where Uncle Jonathan ended. Growing up as a young man, attending university, just after adolescence, and you are single, and sometimes you wake up and you feel like you are feeling something in your body, right? You want to date somebody, you are seeing the beautiful girls in school. I, per se, attended UPSA, and sometimes you feel like, I need to start doing something. And I believe most of you who are watching on YouTube and Facebook, it's normal, it's natural. When you grow to some stage, you start having those kind of tingly feelings in your body, right? But then that doesn't mean you should, go and then have sex and then do things that are not right. Because at the end of the day, you have to make sure you are ready before you marry. Me, per se, the way I always viewed marriage was that you need to be prepared, because even when I was young, some of the old men, the way they speak about marriage, then you don't have to rush into it. That is why it is very important when you are single to draw closer to God, to be prayerful, because I see being single as the time for you to prepare yourself for marriage, because it's an institution that before you enter into it, you must be spiritually matured, you must be physically matured, you must be working and be able to buy Pampers, to be able to buy cocoa. So it's very, very important that as a single person, you are very ready before you go into marriage. Now, how I met my wife, I'm the very shy type, but it's not easy. Sometimes you see that beautiful girl, you want to approach her, and then you don't know how to start. And then you confide in friends and tell them that you see that girl, right? So for me, I think myself and my wife, we attended the same church. We're in Sunday school. I knew her. I didn't even know she would become my wife one day. I didn't have any bad intentions whilst we were in Sunday school. We were all studying together. But after some time, I left and I started attending another church. And then I met her 5 years later. And I said, wow. And
wow.
I remember that scripture, this is flesh of my flesh and bone of my bone. I'll leave it over here and then I'll take over.
Okay, before Emmanuel takes over, I wanted to twist your question a little. How are you managing your singleness, and how will you know if this is the right person that you think God has put down for you to marry?
I think their responses in a way answers my questions, because being single is actually the time where you have to prepare yourself physically, spiritually, financially. And then it's not always easy, because there are so many nice girls you see around, and there's always the pressure to enter a relationship for that matter. But being single also gives you the opportunity to develop your personality. You hear of instances where these causes are the reasons why marriages are broken up. You have to pick a clue from some of these instances and learn from them. If it's people not being prepared financially, it should signal to you that, okay, let me make sure my pocket is well prepared. I can buy Pampers before I start thinking of a relationship, because eventually a relationship or dating or courtship is supposed to end up in a marriage. So whatever your intentions are, you should make sure you are prepared enough before you enter any relationship. But I think in all, being single has its own implication, but then there are positives you can pick from it as well. It gives you time to find the right partner, and eventually God will give you the right partner that you need. Yeah.
Okay. I heard all of you saying you have to prepare emotionally, financially, spiritually, and everything. So you have done all your preparation as a man, because I'm speaking to men here. You've seen someone, like Uncle Mark said, he saw his wife, he was like, this is the flesh of my flesh. So what is it that exactly you will see in a lady that would motivate you or that will push you? Like, what kind of personality do you want the lady to have? What kind of behaviors? What kind of careers? Like, if you are even going to ask the lady out, give us some tips. Some of the single people, give us some tips. What do you think is the best way to go in and ask this person that I've seen who possesses this and this characteristics that I want to get married to you, I want to start a life with you?
Okay, so I will say that I was looking out for someone who is very caring, a woman who is very hardworking, and somebody who is very spiritual. And these were the main things that I was looking for. And in fact, like I said, I was studying her. And with time, I got to know these things in her. And I started pursuing.
So how did you pursue? Yes, how did you ask her out?
So, surprisingly, my pastor is here because... you know, I grew up in church, like I said, and I call him Papa because he saw me growing up. And the point, he helped us in a sense that you need to speak. It is not just the tongues, it's not just only the prayer. I remember very well when we were growing up, because he groomed us and all that. He said, you need to speak. It is not just the prayer or the tongues that will bring the lady. So I started approaching in a way of, you know, asking, how are you? I mean, how was your day? And sometimes I'll wait at the gate after church. In fact, she was a finance person, you know, after church. They have to go and count money, you know, make sure things balance. And she keeps long. In fact, I'll be standing there sometimes, Charlie. But I at a point, I realized that it's paid off. I mean, it paid off. So you need to talk. I think you need to talk.
Okay, thank you, Uncle Jonathan. Uncle Max, please tell us your story.
All right, so what do we have to look out for a woman? Uncle Joe mentioned most of the qualities that we should look out for in a woman. And if you're a woman and you're also watching on Facebook or YouTube, you should the same qualities you can also find in a man if you're a single woman and then a man is approaching you. And I think Uncle Joe mentioned that the person should be caring, the person should be kind, the person should also be a God-fearing person, especially if you are a Christian, because the Bible says that the man is the head of the family, and the man should be a spiritual leader, somebody who fears God, and somebody who is ready to help the family to seek the face of God. So a God-fearing person. Now, a lot of men of today or guys of today only look at the outward of the woman. Excuse me to say, a woman who has a nice shape, who has color and all those things. That is not the only thing, because the outward appearance sometimes may deceive you. A lot of people have just looked at the outward appearance and then they have been deceived. What you have to look at is the inward, the character of the person, the attitude of the person. That is very, very important, because you're going to spend your whole life with this person, and you don't want to marry somebody who is a beast in the house and will treat you badly. You don't want to marry somebody who is selfish, who only thinks about her needs and doesn't consider your needs as a man. It's very, very important. About approaching a woman, I think that as a man, once you said you are ready to marry, or you are ready to date, then you should also have that confidence to approach a woman. There are a lot of pickup lines that a lot of guys are reading online. Some of them will say angels are supposed to be in heaven. What is a black angel like you doing in Lashibi? So many pickup lines, right? But I think as a man, if you pray to God and you ask God to give you that confidence, He said, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So sometimes you need that strength to approach that beautiful lady. And guys, sometimes do not be afraid of rejection. Okay, you need to be bold. You need to be courageous. She may say no now, but maybe she will consider and think about it. I'll leave it over here.
Uncle Max, you're sending me to another question, but we'll let Emmanuel answer before. So, Emmanuel.
So, in my opinion, I think another dimension we can look at is you can't only define a person based on their present state. So, in looking out for a partner, you should also look at the potential they could possibly have. Because they could be better now, but so many things can happen in the future. You should look out for a Christian lady who is exhibiting purpose and looks like a real wife. It may not only be the outward appearance, but so many factors will go into selecting your partner or your spouse. And I think all these things are important.
And I also think that before you approach somebody, you should know the person. Because I think all of you have said something in line with that, but I think that you should get to know the person, who he is, because now we know people pretend a lot, especially with social media and a lot of technological advancement. People can find very nice ways to pretend for a very long time. So we should all be careful, pray, we should get to know the person before we don't jump into anything just because we see the person being nice or something like that. Okay, so Uncle Max, you said something. I want to ask you, how do you deal with rejection? Because now, like I said, the world is now global. Any little thing can spread and everybody will be making fun of you and all of that. So right now, you found a nice lady you want to get married to. You told her your intentions and she says no. Or she says it in a way that is so embarrassing. Like, how do you deal with it? And I know that a guy, it might put you off for another lady. So what do you think we should do in a situation where you ask somebody out and the person says no?
All right, I think a no today doesn't mean a no forever. Sometimes as a man, maybe based on the circumstances you find yourself, or how the lady sees you, or maybe she needs you to prove to her well that you are capable of taking care of her. So she may say no today, but who knows? If you continue to persevere, you might be able to win her heart over. But that doesn't mean you should be chasing her for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, and of course, you need to add prayers to it. It's very important. But then if you look at some of the great leaders and the great men of this world, they failed several times in everything they did, like Bill Gates and some of the great guys. They told them no at a point in time. So in this world, I think that no is part of life. You cannot always get a yes as an answer to every question you ask. So, and sometimes you shouldn't be too worried about people laughing at us. At least some of those people are cowards. They wish they could have gone forward, but I mean, they couldn't go. So if you're bold enough to go forward, then I always say it's a man who will propose to a woman. The woman may show you all the signs and the things, but as a man, you have to get up and then go for it. So if you go and then you get a no, everybody who has gone forward and have gotten a no, I salute you this evening. You are confident, you are bold. Just take it easy. You know, it can be a yes another time. So just take it easy and then pray over it. Sometimes it's also about checking yourself. Okay, maybe you are not the type of person she wants. She wants you to develop yourself. She wants you to work on yourself. So you just have to go back and then look at what caused the no or why she rejected you, and then probably try and fix some of those issues. And then I believe that it could be a yes. If you try several times and it doesn't work, I mean, there are a lot of beautiful angels out there. There are a lot of good women out there. Maybe she's not the right person for you according to God's plan. I believe that God will lead you to the rightful person who you are supposed to date and then get married to.
Okay, Uncle Jonathan, this same question, but I want to add a twist to this same question. So let's say you found someone, you like the person, you want to go forward, but then you present her to your parents, or you go before her parents, and now the parents are the ones rejecting either you or your spouse, or the person you want to get married to. How do you handle that situation?
Okay, so I will take it in this way. I will find out from my parents why are they rejecting her. I think that will help me to solve that, aspect. But if has to do with the lady, then I will speak to an elderly person that I'm interested in this lady, but the parents are saying no. So maybe the elderly ones will help me, or they can go to the parents and then talk to them about the reason why they don't want their daughter to marry me. That is how I will approach it.
So, Emmanuel, you go to the person's parents and the person says, because of your tribe, maybe you are so and so tribe, so they don't want their daughter to marry someone from that tribe. How are you going to handle this situation?
I think sometimes some of these issues are a bit more generational. You can trace it to great-great-grandfathers and all that. So you really have to analyze if it's really necessary to still chase this girl in question. But if it's not really safe, I think just pray about it. If God says no, God says no. You just find other ladies. If there's any issue like that in the family, the whole family is against you because, let's say, you are a Nodna, you are an Akan, you're a Gan, you can't still get married without the blessings of the parents. Sometimes you need the blessings of the parents and the family as well. In my opinion, you just have to pray about it. If it's not possible, you just give up and then find a different option. Yeah.
So I want to add a bit to what my brother just said. You know, me and my wife, we are from different, tribes. Regards to the question you just asked him. So I realized that when I got so much interested in my wife, realized that I'm an 𝐑𝐞𝐥𝐚 and she is from the Volta. To be honest with you, an auntie has gone to Volta and, it didn't work. So there were a whole issue about, accept Volta marriage BMO. So in fact, it was a whole headache. In fact, but being a Christian, in fact, I present this to God in prayer. In fact, I prayed about it. In fact, I fasted and kept praying about it. I was telling God that, God, I've seen everything I want in this woman. But here is the situation. My family people doesn't like where she's coming from. What do? I present this to you. Help me to cross this. And surprisingly, whilst being worried about it, my father has already gotten the signal about that already. And my father rather called me one dawn that it is this lady who is your wife. It is not the one that we are rather looking at. Wow. So I believe with regards to that question, present it to God. And being a child of God, being a Christian, God will go ahead of that. Thank you.
Okay, so viewers, I'm sure we are learning a lot. And most of the solutions I'm hearing or the feedback is all talking about how we should pray about our spouse and then dedicate it to God. Honestly, there's nothing that God cannot do. He can do all things, and all means all. So we have to present everything that we want or we need to God. Okay, so I have another question. Emmanuel, this question goes to you. So let's say there are two ladies, okay, two of your friends that are like, they are your friends, they are nice to you, you are interested in both of them. Not, maybe you see them to be nice ladies. And so right now you are confused. Should you go with Lady A or Lady B? What is the distinguishing factor that will help you to know that no, this one, it has to be A or it has to be B?
Okay, so I remember Pastor saying that there are negotiables and there are non-negotiables. There are certain things that trade off, right? They are very important things for you to look out for in any lady. And then there are other things that you could probably ignore because there are things that can be learned. Let's say cooking may be a non-negotiable to someone because they don't like to eat from outside at all. And looking at the time left, there's no way you can teach the lady how to cook or something like that. But I'm just trying to paint a picture of how sometimes there are negotiables and then there are non-negotiables. You should look out for which factors are really important to you as a man before making any decision. So if it's a career woman that you are looking out for, you should know that this is how my family is going to be in future. This is how we are going to balance our workload and ensure that we are giving the right time to our family. So I think it's contextual, but each person should try and define which criteria works out for them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's say your spouse has a characteristic that's in a way is non-negotiable, but God has said this is your wife. But you also have a non-negotiable characteristic that the wife, like your spouse, is exhibiting. So in this case, how are you going to help to build that potential that for you is non-negotiable, but God said this is your wife, so you don't have a choice. So how are you going to build that potential in your wife? Uncle Jonathan, please start.
It's a very, very good question. And I will take it from Colossians 3:14. And it says that, and overall this virtue, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect what? Unity. So the word here is love. Okay, love. If you love the person, I don't see anything called marking scheme, particularly in marriage. Okay, once you have come together as couples, you must learn to accept each other's what? Weaknesses or flaws. Do you get it? Now, like you said, if she's not good at cooking, okay, what do? You don't raise a marking scheme and then begin to say that she doesn't know how to cook, so the world must hear. No. You help the person, okay? If it's by employing a caterer, okay, or a cook to do all those choices, and also try and let your woman learn from the person. Are you getting it? So for marking scheme, it doesn't apply so much in marriage. I believe that is what is causing a lot of divorce in the system now. The marking scheme, I don't think it is something we should apply in marriage. I will go by helping her where she's not good at. Thank you.
All right, I think I'll take it from where Uncle Jonathan stopped. So I believe that, of course, some of the characteristics are non-negotiable. For instance, the person must fear God, the person must be kind, caring, must be a prayerful person. Those ones, you cannot discount them before you settle with the person, especially if you're a Christian and you also believe in God. But some of the characteristics are things that you can teach your partner to be able to develop over time. So there was this book I was reading about Miles Monroe, which spoke about some of the things you need to know before you get married. And I think one of the scriptures he read was in the Garden of Eden when God asked Adam to cultivate the land. He said, till the land and cultivate the land. Now, one of the things he mentioned in that sermon was that as a man, you have to cultivate the land. The woman that God has given to you, you have to cultivate that person. You cannot get your woman 100% perfect. I believe that you need to be the one to train your woman to be how you want her to be. For example, the way pastor's wife is, it has been based on a long journey that she has gotten to where she is, and then pastor is happy with her. The way my wife is when we got married 7 years ago, I believe that she has improved in a lot of things. Let me take myself, for example. Sometimes I have to drop the kids at school before going to work. Then I realize that, look, I have this beautiful woman who I can teach her how to drive so that she can be able to help me with that. And ever since I taught her how to drive, sometimes I'm even tired, and then she's a very good driver now. She's one of the best drivers in the whole world. So I believe that if you meet a woman and she doesn't have certain qualities, it is your responsibility as a man to cultivate those attributes in the woman. You are the one supposed to groom her and then bring her up to speed. If she doesn't know how to do akpele, then you have to help her and find a way of teaching her how to do akpele to your liking. Maybe the way she does it in her family house is different from the way you like it. But by continuously encouraging her, advising her, cultivating her, then she can become the perfect woman that you want. Now, what I'll say finally is that it's not everything you can change about your partner. Sometimes there are some of the characteristics that you try as much as possible to change, but you won't get it 100%. So as a man, you should also be ready to adapt, and you should be able to understand and adapt to the person's characters and the person's attitude, because if you continue trying not to adapt, then that is when you start fighting with the person. So it's not everything you can change. You can't get it everything 100%. Okay, maybe she doesn't like talking. You've tried as much as possible. She's a reserved person. You have to adapt to her. And then just take her the way she is, because it's not everything you can change about the person. But the ones that you can change, you try as much as possible to teach them, to continue encouraging them in love. And then I believe that the person will now change and suit to the way you want her to be. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Uncle Max, for your answer. This brings me to another question that was asked. So, how far should you go to sacrifice or teach your spouse something that the person, okay, like the example you gave about akpele, she doesn't know how to prepare akpele, and you've tried every possible means, like you've done everything. How far should you go to, like, at what point should you say, okay, I'm done, I'm not going to do it again? Or at what point should you say, okay, I have to try, like, what is the strategy for such a situation where there's a characteristic you've been trying as much as possible, but nothing seems to be working?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it, that some of the things you can't change them. So at a point in time, you have to adapt to how the person is. Okay, so it's not everything you can change about a person. A lot of us were brought up from different homes, different families, different cultures, different beliefs, different ways of doing things. Okay, and once the person has that character which you've tried as much as possible to change, and then it's not changing, then sometimes you have to put it into prayer and then ask God to change the person. Some of the characters may be bad. Maybe the person is a drunkard. And it's going to be very difficult, because for those ones, sometimes they are not negotiable, right? And you are trying to change the person and continuing to encourage the person, and it's very difficult changing the person. Then you need to pray to God and ask God to also touch the heart of the person. And I believe that God is able to change people, and then it's not by your strength all the time. You also have to fall on God. And then, as I mentioned, for the minor ones, which are not as serious, like being a drunkard and just the small things that maybe she cooks and then she doesn't wash the bowls and the whole place is dirty, you continue talking to her, but then maybe as a man, that's where you need to also be innovative by getting a house help who can now assist her with the washing of the bowls, so that you don't want the whole place to be dirty. And then you try as much as possible to also try and find solutions to the problem. If she's the type that she's finding it difficult to wash, and she's not washing very well, You love her. I mean, that's the area where she falls short. Okay, so as a man, look out for solutions. Should I get you a washing machine, which can help you to do the laundry, so that that's the way I also want to contribute? Or should we get somebody on contract who can come around and then come and wash? I believe that they said the two cannot be together unless they agree. So it's very important for the two of you to communicate and then find alternative solutions to some of the problems, because you cannot solve all the problems. You can't change the person to be perfect the way you want it. So we rather explore other alternative ways of solving the problem instead of depending on changing the person at all costs. Thank you.
Wow, I like that. You'll be a very nice husband. Okay, so Uncle Jonathan, I want to ask you, so right now, we mentioned a lot about how finances are very important in marriages, relationships. We mentioned a lot about how finances are very important in marriages and relationships. So how do you manage your finances in a relationship as a married person?
Thank you very much. In fact, this is how it has been for me in my marriage when it comes to my finances. In fact, I've been very transparent. My wife knows what I take home. I made her aware this is my salary. These are the allowances that I earn. If you are able to be transparent when it comes to your finances to your spouse, in fact, you are at peace. But here's the situation: most married men don't make their finances known to their wives. And that is where the demand comes in. But I have made it this way, and it has been very peaceful for me. I've always made her aware what I take. In fact, the investment that I'm into, she's aware of all those. In fact, she's the one who even does the investment for me, because it is one of her areas, because she's in the financial sector. So I've been very transparent when it comes to my finances with my spouse. Thank you.
Okay, so when you say always, I know you had a courtship period before you got married. So was it before, or was it during the courtship period that you started letting her know about your finances? Or when you finally got married to her that you started letting her know about it?
In fact, when we finally got married, because when we were courting, at a point in time, when I got to know that, I mean, she's truly interested in me, and we've both agreed we are getting married. I remember that was when we were doing the counseling session. In fact, I started opening up a lot of things to her financially. So I would say that it started from that time. Thank you.
Okay, Emmanuel, normally when you want to court somebody, there are a lot of expenses that goes in. Like, how much should you invest in a relationship before you finally get married to the person, in terms of like finances?
I don't think there's a particular amount you can assign to this. And even at that stage, I don't know what in particular you are investing. Can you give me?
Maybe birthdays, anniversaries, maybe outings, those
Okay.
things. So
Yeah, so I think for that, it makes sense. It's reasonable, because if you are in a relationship with someone and there's a birthday, there's Christmas, gifts are part of our lives, right? So it makes sense to be giving them gifts which are within your budget, which are reasonable. It doesn't make sense to go and take a loan to impress her, to buy her a gift or something like that. But so far as it's within your limits, I think it's a reasonable investment. Yeah.
okay, so I have one question. So what if before you get married, you want to have a small wedding, but your wife wants to have a big wedding? How will you manage that?
I think you should communicate, right? Why does she want a big wedding? What's the purpose of the big wedding? Why do you also want a small wedding? Eventually, you should be able to come at a consensus that let's strike a balance, let's do it halfway, and then it will work out for both of you. I think you should just communicate and find out what will work.
Grace, I want to come in concerning the investment that you are supposed to make when you are dating. I want to be a little controversial over here. You are not obliged as a man to to invest into a lady or to be buying her gifts and buying, because look, mind you, a lot of women are taking advantage of men nowadays, whereby she's not even ready to marry you, but you take her, go and do shopping for her, spend so much on her, and you are in university, you are not having money, and you are spending so much on the woman, right? It should be a mutual thing. If somebody loves you, then there's no need for the owners to always lie on you to be the one paying when you go out. Okay, but in our tradition and in our area where we find ourselves, the man is always obliged to pay. But you go outside the country and then you take a white woman out, or white people are dating, and when they go out, both of them pay for their drinks, because at the end of the day, you are studying each other. Okay, so there's no obligation for a man to be the one to pay the bills. As soon as you start dating a girl, you start giving her chop money. PI was 1,000 Ghana cedi every month. I mean, how? How? What about if I give you 1,000 Ghana for the next 3 years and you don't marry me? That is a mistake. So you are not obliged. You are courting. That's the period you need to know about each other. You need to study about each other, know the characters of each other. But you're not obliged. But once in a while, I mean, if you want to show your love on birthdays, the gifts, the small gifts that you can give out were like birthday cakes, cards, and then a few of the gifts. But then it shouldn't put a financial burden on you, because, look, the person has not promised that he is going to marry you. Anything can happen along the way. You don't want to do anything and then you'll be hurt. Because a lot of people spend money and then at the end of the day, they get very hurt. And we hear on social media people piercing their girlfriends with knives because you have spent so much money and then the person has disappointed you. So let's be a little cautious as far as spending money when dating is concerned. That's the little one I want to add.
But I want to chip in something there just to add a bit to what Uncle Maxwell said. In fact, the dating period is a time for you to save more. To be honest with you, marriage is work. Marriage is a whole work on its own. So the dating period is not a time to throw money around. That is not a time you should be buying or spending so much. And what I'm seeing now, the youth of today, every design that comes, they want to wear. They want to go into that. Please, dating is a time for you to save more, because there are school fees ahead of you you are going to pay. In fact, there is rent to pay. Bills are there for you to pay. So please, I would advise that the dating period is a time for you to save more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Uncle Jonathan. I actually agree with what has been said. We should understand as ladies that the person we are courting is not like our parents. There's an extent to which the person can go for you. So in as much as the person is trying to be kind and giving us some help here and there, we should also understand that he is not the person going to take care of us. Okay, thank you very much for your submission. I want us to give concluding statements. Just give us advice. Right now, we see on social media so many things are happening. People are just discouraging us young people from getting married. Like we said, that marriage is losing its significance in our generation. So I would like you to, instead of the negative things we always hear about marriage, I would like us to give us some positive remarks, like encourage us so that we would want to get married and we would not think that marriage has lost its significance, so we wouldn't get married anymore. So encourage us.
Okay, so I will take it in this way. In fact, marriage is a good thing. I've been blessed in my marriage. And the advice that I'll tell the youth of today is that please marry your friend. Marry somebody who is your friend. Because what I'm seeing today is that we just see ourselves within a short time, we claim we are going to marry. Have you gotten to know the person very well? That is why I am putting across that marry your friend. Someone that you know, the person understands you. In fact, he or she can fill your pulse. These are the people I would advise that go in for. Either than that, all these things that we've said here, you just enter and within a month or 2 or 3, I'm telling you, it's going to be a whole mess. So please, my advice is make sure you marry your friend. Thank you.
Okay, so I also think before you get married, what I would say is that you have to invest more in yourself. If there's any financial investment opportunities that you can actually invest in to save money during that period, you should be doing that and not investing in the lady everything that you are making. Because like they said, marriage is work and you have so many bills coming up for you. So that's the best time to develop yourself financially, spiritually, and every aspect of your life as you prepare for your marriage. Yeah, thank you.
I think my final advice also is that as a man or as a young lady, don't just marry because of handsomeness or because of beauty, but just like what we discussed, you need to also look at the internal factors and the internal characteristics. You need to marry somebody who is a God-fearing person, somebody who is respectful, somebody who is kind, who is ready to share with you, who is not selfish and only seeks only his or her side of the bargain, always trying to please themselves. But you need to marry a matured person who is kind and then who is also selfless. And the young men out there, being a man doesn't mean you go to the gym and then you do all the macho and then you think you have huge muscles and that makes you a man. And then you cannot even afford to rent a place to live on your own, or you are not working, because that thing called marriage is not for boys. It doesn't matter about your height. It doesn't matter about your physique. It doesn't matter about your muscle. It's about responsibility. You being able to take care of a woman who is coming into your house. And another thing I want to say is that as a man, before you get married, the Bible says and you have to leave your father and your mother's house and you'll be clinched to a woman. A lot of men have not left their mothers and their father's house. They are still with their mothers and their fathers. They cannot afford a 3 square meal a day. They cannot pay the bills. They are still with their fathers. They are still with their mothers. If you want to show that you are a man, then you should be prepared. You should be matured enough. You should have the financial muscle to leave your father and your mother's house. Stop putting your mind on your father's car, your father's house, your father's properties. My father is a this, my father is a that. That doesn't put food on the table for you and the woman. It is what you yourself, you are capable of doing is what will make your marriage work, not what your parents have done. So you should leave your father and your mother's house. And it's not about, my mother said this, my father said this, my mother said this, my father said this. Then you are not a man of your own, because you should be somebody who is matured enough to take decisions for yourself and not always depending on people to take decisions for you. You are still a boy. You should grow up to be able to get married. And you should be the leader of your family, because you are the spiritual head of the family. You should be the financial head. You should have the skill to be able to nurture your children and to teach them the ways of God so that they can be able to grow. That's all my final advice I have.
I want to give opportunities for your wives that are not here. So as a bonus, I want you to say one thing that you have enjoyed about marriage in respect to your spouse. So one lovely thing that your wife has done, and let's give a shout out to her. I'm sure she's watching this evening.
In fact, I call her Odo. In fact, Odo 1. And in fact, me sitting here, I would say that I am a whole me through her. If 11 years ago, if I show you my picture, Grace, you never accept to marry me. And I'll salute my wife today. In fact, she has really worked on me. When it comes to my achievement, I will always say that she's one of the best that I've come across in life. Aww. In fact, if there is another world, she's the same woman I'll ask God to give to me.
Oh, that's nice.
She's someone that if she has 1 cedi, she will never hide from you. She taught me how to save. I always say that maybe because she's in the financial sector, that is why. But, I mean, when we talk about a virtuous woman, she is a true example. And I salute her for that. Pamela, I would say you are the woman I will always marry. God bless you. Or the
amen,
one.
Amen. Amen. Auntie Pam, I hope you are watching.
I'm sure this question you are not supposed to answer. So, also about my wife, she's called Francisca 𝐑𝐞𝐥𝐚𝐭𝐢𝐨𝐬𝐡𝐢𝐩 I think she's the best thing that ever happened to me. When I met her, I mean, if you compare me today to how I was when I met her, a lot of changes have gone on in my life. She just celebrated her birthday, and I mean, it's just beautiful to have such a beautiful woman by your side, always encouraging you, always praying for you, always trying to, seek the face of God. She's somebody who loves God, somebody who is God-fearing, somebody who puts God in everything that we do. When we are driving and we are dropping the children to school and we have not even prayed, she will say that, Max, we have to say a prayer before we drop the children at school. So she's not just a wife, but she's a friend. She's everything to me. And of course, if I'm also given the opportunity to marry again, she will be the person I'll marry. And I'll always call her Toffee One. So just like for the one, I say Toffee One because she's my Toffee.
Nice. Oh, that's nice. Emmanuel, please, if you had a spouse, a wife, what do you think you would love about her? And what would you call her? Somebody's Toffee One, somebody's other one. What would you call her?
I'm here to prepare that name, so I'll think about I'll think about that name and come back next year when I'm ready. So don't worry. But I want to wish all the ECM family a happy Vows Day, and everybody should enjoy this evening. Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us this Wednesday to speak about love and relationships. I hope you have been blessed. God bless us all. Okay, so since we've had a special edition for singles, next week we would have another special edition for married couples. So I hope you tune in. Thank you very much for joining us. God bless.